Hey, what's up, folks? It's Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance, the channel that always has your back and tells it like it is. So, some of you may be wondering, where have I been the last month or so? I haven't been making my normal videos like I usually have. I haven't been very active online on Twitter either. What's going on? Well, if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen that roughly around the end of March, I had a stroke. Okay, so kind of came completely out of nowhere. I've never been in the hospital long term, anything like that, and just happened to me one day. So what transpired essentially was that our alarm clock went off first thing in the morning. I felt really hot in bed. I stood up, instantly had a cold sweat, felt like I was going to throw up, fell back into bed. Told my wife I didn't think I could take our son to school. Somehow I managed to get down the hall into the shower. I laid in the shower for an hour or two, which is completely uncharacteristic of me. That's something I never ever do. And once that was done, I managed to get back into bed for about an hour until my wife was back home and she convinced me to go to the ER. So when I was at the ER, they gave me a CT scan, a CAT scan, and the whole time the room was spinning. I would equate it to kind of feeling like you just had about 8 or 9 beers, except I didn't have any, right? So obviously something was pretty wrong, and I was physically sick. I was throwing up all morning. They got me into the ER. I did those tests. I managed to get into a room where I threw up on myself a few more times. That was a lot of fun. And, these are the things that happen to you in the hospital, right? So eventually they decided that I indeed had had a stroke. I got to ride in an ambulance to another neurological hospital where they then treated me for the next couple of days. I did 2 hours in the MRI machine. I did an ultrasound. I did a COVID test, a flu test, all negative. But they were able to confirm essentially that what happened to me is something that they call carotid dissection, which there is the carotid artery which runs in the back left side of your neck. And apparently what happens is it can tear, and when it tears on the inside, which means that it bleeds, and that blood can then clot. And when the blood clots, that's what causes a stroke. And so that's essentially what happened to me. And the people this happens to, apparently it's incredibly rare. It happens to roughly 2 to 3 people in every 100,000. But it happened to me, all right? So totally at random. And when I was in the hospital, they did all the tests. They did everything they could. And basically, ultimately, they were on the fence of whether they wanted to do surgery and put, I guess, a stent in the artery. They ultimately decided not to do that and said, we're going to send you home, put you on some blood thinners, some extra medicine, etc. And so for me, it kind of felt like a hard reset. Like on your computer, you have on and off that you can click with your mouse, or you just have the button you can hold down and hard reset. That's kind of how this whole thing felt. And so they released me back home. I went home. And I slowly have been coming back to life daily ever since. And so I think I got home somewhere around the beginning of April, and it's been roughly 3 weeks plus since that time. So I started out, I had a walker, which is kind of funny. We actually have a few canes lying around from my wife's dad that I've been using those as well. I graduated from the walker, don't really need that anymore, but I still use the canes a little bit outside. In the meantime, I've had a follow-up appointment with my primary doctor, which basically kind of confirmed all this. He gave me a referral for some physical and occupational therapy. And I actually had the physical therapy appointment just the other day where they gave me an evaluation. And so this was really important because this is the first time any doctor has really evaluated me to say how I'm actually doing, right? So for those of you out there who haven't had a PT evaluation, it's kind of interesting the way they do this. So I had to move my head left and right to a metronome that's clicking on beat for 30 seconds. Then I had to move it up and down for 30 seconds. Then I had to go stand in the corner and try to put my big toe with my heel in balance for 30 seconds. And I had to do it with my eyes closed, which was really weird. So the PT therapist was explaining to me that essentially the personal therapist, I guess that's the term, PT. Anyway, she was explaining to me that essentially your balance is based on your vision, your inner ear, and the area of the cerebral cortex, which essentially is the bottom of your brain, where I had this problem. And essentially what the issue is with me now is that when my eyes are open, I have fairly good balance. So I can walk, I can go up and down stairs, I can do all these things. But when my eyes are closed, I basically have no balance whatsoever. And I'm just kind of like a tree that is blowing in the wind and is going to fall any way possible. So after that, she had me do a walking test where I had to walk back and forth to various lines. I had to do it with my eyes open, with my eyes closed. I had to step over obstacles. I had to walk backwards. And ultimately, she gave me a score, which was a 17 out of 30, which, if you do the math, is basically a high F. So what's funny about that, or at least what I find funny, is that this is kind of how I felt all along, that I feel like about a high F. But I'm steadily coming back more and more daily. And so you're probably wondering, you had a stroke, you don't really look like you had a stroke, I don't have any paralysis on the right side of my face or anything like that. The stroke happened on the left side, so it impacts the right side of my body. But my leg's a little weaker. My right hand has been pretty much kind of numb from kind of the shoulder down. And it's slowly getting better. And each day I try to do little exercises like putting my fingers to my thumb. I got little things like this thing. It's called a tangle. I get to mess with this and manipulate it all day. It was basically explained to me that when you have a stroke, it's kind of a lose it or use it 90 days. So I'm trying to use it as much as I possibly can. I'm flexing my hand. I'm trying to make a fist. I'm doing all these things. And I'm using my tangle. I got out my yo-yo. I've got lots of little things to help me out. And so really, that's kind of what the after effects are. I've got really bad balance when my eyes are closed. I've got some numbness in my right hand. I've got a little bit of weakness on my right side. Maybe a little bit labored breathing. Cognitively, sharp as a tack. So I am going to be starting my videos here shortly. I'll get to that. But what I found is that each day I kind of tend to start strong and then I kind of go down as the day goes on, and I almost need like a midday nap, which is something I've never done. I've never been a napper, mainly because I like it. I like to sleep when it's dark and cold, and in the middle of the day it's bright and hot, at least here, right? So anyway, things have kind of changed a little bit on that front. But overall, where I stand is I've got a whole boatload of follow-up appointments. You may be wondering, what caused this whole thing in the first place. They say that carotid dissection in about 80% of the people is completely random. So what caused it? I think it's a few different reasons with me in particular. So I've had neck pain for quite a while, maybe the last year or so. Prior to that, I really never had it, right? And so maybe this has been going on for a year or building up to it. It seems to get worse when I overexert and I work outside. I always kind of chalked it up to dehydration. I get done working outside all day, my neck kind of hurts. I'll take an Advil, some water, whatever, I feel better, right? That's kind of what I thought was happening. On top of that, I've had some issues with I had some bad pillows for the bed. That one was too hard. I spent more money. I thought I got a better one. It had no support at all. And then finally I have a good one now. But prior to all this, a couple of nights before all this happened, I woke up in the middle of the night and the back left side of my neck was killing me. So maybe it happened then, right? That could have been part of it. I have a massager here that it goes on your neck, and it's got two little loops that kind of wrap around your arms, go through them, and it kind of holds it down on your neck, right? And whenever my neck would start to hurt, I'd turn on my massager. I'd really kind of hold it down, almost like a deep tissue massage, right? And then I learned that if I held my arms up, the massager would kind of go up my neck. So it's possible that the massager, working as the deep tissue massage, where I'm thinking it's working on my muscles, was actually just working on my arteries as well, right? So not good. And then the icing, the cherry on this whole thing, was that I did a good Samaritan deed. I was out at a local landscape place that has plants and they have fish. And for those of you who have followed me for a while, you may have learned that my passion project here at the house is my fish pond, right? So I built a fish pond, I don't know, a year ago or so. And that's kind of my hobby. That's my big hobby on the side, outside all the other things I do. And so I was at the place looking at some fish. And the guy who's helping me got a call on the walkie that they asked him to help someone else lift a pot into a car. And so I didn't really think anything of it. He helped me out. I went and paid for my stuff. When I'm walking out to the parking lot, I can see him and another guy standing next to this pot. And it's the biggest pot I've ever seen in my life. It's the kind of pot that goes at the front door of a hotel, okay? 3 to 4 feet wide, 3 feet deep, 3-inch thick concrete, extremely heavy. And I'm looking at this pot thinking there is no way in hell that these two guys are lifting that into her SUV. So the lady, I don't know, she saw it, she liked it, she wanted it, bought it, and now they had to put it in the SUV. And so I walked over there and I said, hey, do you need any extra help? And they said, yeah. And so the way it worked was that each one of the guys was on the side of the pot, I was behind it, and the lady was right here. And I told her, I said, when I count to 3, you pull this cart out as fast as you can. We're gonna lift this thing up into your car. So we count to 3, we lift the pot, she pulls it out. I lift as hard as I can. All 3 of us, I mean, this thing had to have weighed multiple hundreds of pounds. Somehow we get it up, get it into the pot, and we realize we have to kind of roll it once it's in there. And when we do that, I felt like a twinge in my wrist, almost like maybe I tore a tendon or partially tore it, or I don't know, something weird happened in my wrist. And we ended up getting it in there, and I said, all right, it looks like you're all good, you know. And so anyhow, I thought that was simply a wrist injury. But looking back on it, that also could have been the catalyst for this whole thing. So ultimately, where this all stands is that I did post about this briefly on Twitter. I've kind of touched on it a couple times, but I really haven't touched on it on YouTube. So I figured now was a good time to give you a little update for where I am. I'm still alive. I'm still here. I'm not dead yet. Though I'm not afraid of death. I would say that after this experience kind of, you know, changes your perspective. But I did want to just put a huge thank you out to everybody out there who watches my videos and follows me and has sent me words of encouragement and reached out on Twitter or where else. And, you know, just said they were thinking about me. I appreciate that. You know, what's really cool with a worldwide community is, you know, when I started this channel, at first I thought it was kind of weird that, you know, I'm like meeting people all over the world. In the years since, now I simply have friends that are all over the world. And it's a really, really cool thing. And I'm very appreciative of everybody who's reached out. Even had one of my friends on here reach out and tell me that he was a vascular surgeon who does this all day, every day. Go figure, right? So I've had a lot of good people, you know, come into my life over this whole thing, and just wanted to, you know, give you all an update, let you know I'm still here, let you know the channel has not died. I simply just had this thing come out of absolute nowhere, and you know, I get better by the day. So my hope is that within this first 90 days that I can regain most of what I may have, you know, lost at the beginning of it. So It's a hard reset, but you know, now I am a stroke survivor. So anyhow, just wanted to send this update out to everybody, give you a heads up that I'm still here, I'm still alive, and I'll still be doing videos. I'm not there quite yet, but in the near future, I should be posting some for you. So anyway, this is Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody out there and give you this update. Catch you later.